Hey, just a quick heads up before we get started. There are a couple swear words in this episode. If you need a censored version, unfortunately, I don't have one. Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Deep Dispatch. Thanks so much for tuning in. I've got a very eventful episode for you today, so let's get right into it. All right, so Amanda pointed out that I never really gave a conclusion on the last episode to the whole emission sticker and whether or not I got away with it. And the answer is yes, I did make it out of Wuppertal without getting a ticket for not having the emission sticker. Here's what I did. I don't know if this did anything or not. I'm going to tell myself it did. So I found a place to park in Wuppertal. I intentionally parked in a very tight spot, and it was like kind of under a tree because, like the parking enforcement could give me a ticket for not having the emission sticker. And what I did was I left a little note on my windshield, and I wish I still had it or I took a picture of it, but unfortunately I don't and I didn't. But it said something along the lines of, "Hey, I just arrived in the country today. And I've been looking all over trying to find the sticker and no one will sell it to me. So if you show me a little bit of mercy, I promise I'll go buy it first thing on Monday." And yeah, no ticket. So in my mind, I'm going to tell myself that the note saved me. But I'll be completely honest, it would have also been hilarious if I still got a ticket with that on my windshield. It kind of reminds me of an episode from The Office.
On the desk of Andrew Bernard. Note. Pathetic.
But instead, it's kind of more along the lines of,
"That's why you always leave a note."
all right, I wanted to start this one off a little differently. I'm going to shift away from the day-by-day travelogue for just a little bit and talk about some overall impressions that I have 3 weeks in now. It seems like most people here do not want to travel to the US right now, and that's not a surprise. I don't even have to be discussing politics with someone. I could be talking to someone who maybe they have family in the US that they go to see often, and they'll say, yeah, I'm probably not going to go for a few years. Something that I mentioned in the last episode is that people here are very up to date with what's happening in the US. They read the news. They're very well informed. Multiple people have told me that they don't want to go to the US right now because they don't want to have their phones looked through. Not because they're criminals, but people have told me, oh, I've maybe made some jokes about Trump in my texts. I don't want to get in trouble for that. Can you blame them? People don't want to travel to the US right now. Like I said, I don't even have to be talking about politics for that to be something that comes up. Another thing I've noticed, the countries here all have relatively decent relationships with each other. I'm talking about the countries in the European Union. Pretty much everyone here gets along for the most part, but there are some kind of, I don't want to call them rivalries, but some of the countries like to give some of the others a hard time. But it's, at the end of the day, it's all in good fun because, it's not like these countries are at war with each other. For example, Germans and the Dutch people, they make jokes at each other's expense. And that's just an example. A lot of countries have done that in the past. I would be in the Netherlands and I would mention, oh, I came from Germany today. And someone would just say, oh, we don't really like Germany. And it's like, okay, whatever, this one person doesn't like Germany for whatever reason. That is something that I have not noticed at all. That's not happening anymore. And I think the reason is that people here don't think that they can trust the U.S. as a dependable ally, and instead they are looking towards their neighbors and strengthening those friendships. And I've noticed on this tour people saying really nice things about their neighbors and really nice things to say about the European Union. And yeah, I think people here are turning more towards their neighbors to fill the friendship void that is being left by just not being able to rely on the U.S. as a steady friend and ally. Something that I was really worried about before coming over here is people don't know what my stances are. They don't know what I believe in. And I was a little worried about people just assuming that I voted for this or I support it in any way because somehow the majority of Americans do, apparently. And I was really worried that that was just what people were going to assume that I believed when I showed up. And I'm really happy to say that for the most part that that's not the case at all. I don't know, just the fact that I'm a touring musician at a very low level, I guess that's maybe a pretty good indicator to a lot of people. Once we started talking about politics, I usually end up apologizing. And most people kind of say the same thing, that, oh, we know that it's only half of the Americans and that the other half is still good. And that is just a huge relief, honestly, because, yeah, I don't want to be associated. So most people get it. Most people are cool. Most people are even more informed than I maybe gave them credit for. So, all right, I kind of wanted to just take a little bit to think to myself about how to wrap up this segment. And I wanted to just make sure that I chose my words carefully. So here's what I got. In spite of everything, it doesn't seem like they're giving up on the US just yet. It really seems like Europe does still want to be friends with the US. They still see us as a long-term ally. They're not giving up on us yet, but they are maybe starting to consider it as a possibility. I don't think all hope is lost yet. All right, we are in Luxembourg. It's been a very long few days of too much driving, but we've got some shorter drives ahead, so that's good. Just wanted to give a quick ode to Luxembourg. It's really one of my favorite countries in Europe, and to be honest, it wasn't at first. I came here for the first time in 2016, and it just didn't really grab me at first. It seemed a little confused on its identity. At first, it kind of felt like a weird knockoff of Paris in some way. The Luxembourgish identity isn't quite as uniform and defined as a lot of the other countries in Europe. And I think that's took me some getting used to at first, because it's really just a giant melting pot. And there definitely is that national identity, but it's kind of overshadowed by the melting pot. After coming here time and time again, I've started to see how beautiful that is. I played a few different places here in the country, but there's a bar here called Crossfire, and I've probably played there 6 or 7 times over the years. And that's mainly because the owner, Stefan, is just a legend. He is just such a cool guy. And if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have kept coming back. Yeah, he owns this little bar, and it's been really cool to see it grow and transform over the years to what it is now. It's kind of just all of Stefan's favorite things packed into one little bar. whenever I play there, I meet people that live there in Luxembourg, but are from all over Europe and all over the world, really. Stefan is from Sweden. His wife is American, and all the people that work there are also from all over Europe and all over the world. And yeah, I think it's a good reminder to keep an open mind and not get too hung up on your first impressions. And if you don't like somewhere, maybe give it another try. Maybe go in with a different mindset. Try not to compare it to other places and just go in with a clean slate and see what happens. You might be surprised. So, yeah, Stefan, thank you for everything over the years. We can't wait to come back, and we'll see you again soon. All right, back on the road. All right, it is Tuesday morning, just after midnight. I am on the island of Saaremaa in Estonia, in the main city on the island, Kuressaare, sitting in the car. Our Airbnb is right across from the bus station. I don't know, it's kind of a weird mix of eerie and comfort, sitting outside of a bus station late at night. I can see the arrival and departure board, and there's two big Lux Express buses that I guess are parked out here overnight. I don't know. It's there's something about a transit hub late at night. It stirs something up in me. I'm not sure what it is. I certainly don't miss the days of public transit touring as I'm sitting here in my my relatively new car. I'm really glad that I'm not lugging my guitar and my suitcase and all my musical equipment on a Lux Express bus. I know a lot of people do it, and I have nothing but respect for them, but I've done it before. It's grueling. And to be honest, this tour is pretty damn grueling on its own. I'm not going to lie. I love it, but pretty much everyone we've talked to on the phone, or a lot of people that have come to the shows, we kind of get the same reaction from everyone who actually looks at our tour schedule and maybe starts to consider what that looks like and what that entails and what those travel days are like and what those days back to back to back, etc., are going to be like. We just talked to our friend Mike, who is currently house and dog sitting for us. And that was the first thing he said. He said, man, I looked at your tour schedule. It's crazy. And yeah, it is a little crazy. It's kind of what you have to do to make it make sense, at least at this very low level that we're at. So it's Tuesday morning, just after midnight, Monday night, however you want to look at it. I've certainly fallen off the wagon a little bit here, so let's do the last week real quick. Monday a week ago, we woke up in Germany after a good stretch of shows. Said goodbye to Germany for now. We'll be back. We had a couple days of just driving. And yeah, going back to people reacting to our tour schedule, we especially get that reaction over here from people who understand the geography and how some of these places are close together, some of them aren't. And that makes for some long travel days. Again, not complaining. But yeah, Monday we had a long drive, no show. Drove across most of Poland, made it to Warsaw, got an Airbnb, cooked up some dinner. Man, it is always just really nice to cook dinner on tour, for me personally. I know a lot of people don't do it, and I totally understand. It's a hassle to go out to the grocery store, make sure you have all the utensils that you need at wherever you're staying, set aside the time to prepare it, do the dishes. That can be a lot on tour, but I really enjoy it because I like knowing exactly what I'm eating. I like making it how I want. That helps me take care of my digestive system. And it's also something that's just really therapeutic and makes me feel like a little bit more of a normal human. Something else I'm starting to realize about myself is I really like cooking for other people. Food makes people happy, and I like making people happy. So I like cooking for other people. In Warsaw, had some really crazy storms roll in. We were getting like weather alert texts, which is not something we usually get over here. Yeah, had a nice night off. Tuesday we had another transit day, no show. Made it to Vilnius in Lithuania, and man, the border between Poland and Lithuania is not fun, and it never has been. It's supposed to be something that they're making progress on, but it really feels like the opposite, because I made that crossing for the first time 2017, I think, and it was not fun then, and it has not been fun every time. It's just a mess, man. Construction, traffic, always raining, and the gap, the Suwalki gap. The Suwalki, if you pronounce it the Polish way, but I'm going to pronounce it the American way because I'm an American. The Suwalki gap. Never fun. Always raining, and pretty much every time you make it through the gap, after you get through, you get out, stretch your legs for a little bit. You look at your car, and it looks like you went off-roading. It looks like you went mudding. And in a way, you kind of did, because a lot of it is unpaved and it's raining. And yeah, always good to have that behind you on a European tour. And we don't have to do it again on this tour. Thank God. And I think in the future, we're going to take a little bit of an out-of-the-way ferry, a little bit expensive of a ferry, but if I could not have to drive through the gap again, that would be great. Made it to Vilnius, stayed with our friends Paul and Yeva, who have been super kind and helpful in a lot of different ways. Mainly, they let us store some gear at their house. So we picked that up, and it feels good to have the whole setup again. We have everything we need to set up and perform pretty much anywhere, given that we have some electricity. So we have a little amp to use at some of the shows, not all of them, but it's nice to just like have that so that, you can set up anywhere. Most places we play do have some sort of sound system, but a lot of times we show up and it's not what we were expecting. And it's nice to just have our stuff as a backup to be like, hey, this isn't working. We're going to just use our own stuff and have it up and running in 5 minutes and be ready to rock. So it's nice to have that. So yeah, Tuesday in Vilnius. Wednesday we woke up, got on the road to Liepāja, Latvia, which is on the Baltic coast. It's kind of a beach town, kind of a shipping town, kind of a very Russian town, because that was one of the Soviet Union's main shipping points, and still really Russian. Kind of hear people speaking it on the streets. It kind of seems like more people speak Russian than Latvian in Liepāja. Played 2 outside shows at 2 different places there. The first night was a little too cold and windy. Fun show though. Man, met some really interesting people at that show. And I'm really glad that we did, because definitely was not really feeling it at the beginning with the weather and kind of some of the stuff I mentioned a minute ago, if you know what I mean. But met some really, really interesting, really nice people. And I think it deserves just a little bit of a backstory, because the backstory is definitely what made our interaction with them even more interesting. So all the Baltic countries, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, are in the EU. They're NATO members. And for anyone unfamiliar, NATO is an alliance of All right, you know what? Let's pull up some concrete facts about NATO while we're at it. Might as well be precise. So, NATO has 32 member states, 30 in Europe, 2 in North America. That's the US and Canada. Yeah, most of Europe. There's only a few exceptions. Founded kind of in the aftermath of World War II with the signing of the North Atlantic Treaty in 1949. NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I don't know if it's explicitly stated in the treaty that was signed in 1949, but the whole premise of this is to combat, at the time, the Soviet Union. They signed the Warsaw Pact a few years after. And yeah, at least among the member countries, mainland Europe hasn't seen a major conflict since World War II. So I'll let you be the judge. What do you think? NATO? Good? Bad? I'll leave that up to you. Well, it's mainly the U.S. and our good friends that have an alliance for a lot of purposes, one of them being, hey, if anyone in the alliance is attacked, we all help the other members of that alliance. And all the Baltic countries are in that. And that's something that they're really proud of. The people here in the Baltic countries, everyone we've talked to about it is really happy to be a part of NATO. Back in April, the U.S. Was conducting a military training, because that's kind of something that being a part of NATO involves, is that you kind of work together with the countries to just do a lot of that kind of stuff, military training exercises. So back in April, some members of the U.S. military were involved in a training exercise in Latvia. Quick sidebar, meant to say Lithuania, not Latvia. Whoops. Long story short, 4 service members ended up losing their lives in this exercise. They were in some sort of armored vehicle that got lost, and I believe the weather was being Baltic. And they just ended up 20 feet in mud in a swamp, and they did not make it out alive. Obviously, terrible, terrible. The Lithuanian president, after the servicemen were reported missing, was very swift in saying that, hey, U.S., whatever you need, we are here. We've got you. As a good member of an alliance should do, they reacted more than I think that you should expect. The Lithuanian president said, hey, we're going to do everything we can. We're not going to rest until we recover the vehicle and whatever that entails. He said, yeah, we're here for it. I think that was not a surprise, but still really, really awesome, because that's what being friends with someone is about. So they recovered the soldiers who did not survive, 4 of them. And the Lithuanian president had a big ceremony, had a big, I guess you could say, a Lithuanian burial before the bodies were sent back to the U.S. And this is not something that I don't think many people in the U.S. were even familiar with this story, which is not a surprise with the onslaught of all the other stuff that we have to deal with on a regular basis. And I'm not knocking anybody who doesn't know anything about Lithuania, but a lot of people don't. They don't know that it's a NATO country. They don't know where it is. They don't know anything about it. That's fine. But I think someone hears a story like that doesn't know anything about Lithuania, and with everything else that's going on, a story like that, unfortunately, is going to fly under the radar. It didn't for me, because I keep up with what's going on over here. So, getting back to our show in Liepāja on Wednesday, some Americans, very clearly Americans from their accent, came up and said hi to us off the stage after we played, and they were like, "Hey, we got a table over there. It's always really cool to meet Americans over here. You guys should come hang out, have a drink with us, and talk for a little bit." We were honestly pretty tired, but I was like, let's go say hi for a little bit. So yeah, come to find out, they are members of the U.S. Navy, and I asked, how did you end up in Lithuania? Another sidebar, I meant to say Latvia, not Lithuania. Whoops. And they said, yeah, well, We're part of a NATO training exercise that we've been doing for the last few months. And the story from a few months ago obviously immediately came to mind, and I knew I had to present it delicately, obviously. And I did the best that I could with that. And I was like, yeah, hey, I know it's probably a touchy subject, but did you all have anything to do with what happened in Lithuania a few months ago? And it was, they kind of all had very quick and different reactions all at once. And it was kind of interesting to see how they all reacted differently. They mainly couldn't even believe that I had heard that story, because apparently no one that they also know had knowledge of that. And one guy, I could tell, started getting pretty emotional pretty quickly. Come to find out that he was part of the recovery operation for those 4 soldiers who went missing and passed away. And I felt a little bad, honestly, bringing up something obviously so sensitive as that. But he was cool. He didn't want to talk too much about it, but he told me a little bit about it. He told me about getting the phone call in the middle of the night, about how they needed him right away and didn't understand why they needed him right then and there at midnight, just totally out of the blue. Yeah, I think it kind of really helps you put perspective on things when you just don't know what you're walking into, because he didn't at the time. They just said that they needed him, and obviously they really did need him. So yeah, he was part of the recovery mission, and I know that wasn't something that was probably easy for him to talk about. And I totally would have understood if he didn't want to talk about it at all. But I'm glad that I got his perspective. I got one person who was part of it. I got to hear a little bit about what they went through. But really nice guys. Honestly, just like even before that, like we just like kind of got right into it, and within like a minute we were just like laughing like we had known each other for a really long time. And I think for both of us it's also just a rare to get to shoot the shit with some Americans in this part of the world, because there aren't that many that you run into. And yeah, we were playing in the same town, different venue the next night, and I told them, and they're like, yeah, we're definitely going to try to come out. They did come out for a little bit. They had a flight to catch literally like 2 hours after our show that night. And they still came out, which is kind of crazy to me. That's how they chose to spend their last night in Latvia, is listening to us for a second night in a row. We didn't get to talk to them much that night, kind of just got to say hi to them when they came. And obviously they had a plane to catch and a lot more important things to attend to. But I really wish that we had more time to talk, and genuinely hope that I'm able to run into them again soon, because yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Okay. I thought I was going to make it through the week while sitting out here outside the Kuressaare bus station, but I think I only made it to Wednesday, and I'll save the rest of the days for tomorrow. All right, I'm back. Let's wrap up the Baltic episode, because we got the Åland Islands coming up, and I really want to devote a whole episode to that, because I think it's going to be a really fun week. So night 2 in Liepāja, had a really nice show outside on the beach. Got a little chilly towards the end, but that's okay. Got to say hi to the servicemen for a little bit. Ate some good food. Walking back to the Airbnb after the gig, and I stepped in dog shit somehow, and like a lot of it. So I spent like an hour cleaning off my shoes and just dealing with that. I really don't understand how anyone would not pick up after their dog. Like, come on. It's, Yeah, you get it. After Liepāja, we went back down to Lithuania for a night. Had an all right show there. Went up to Riga, had an okay show there too. Got on the road fairly early for us. Sunday, had to make it all the way to Saaremaa, which is an Estonian island, and we had to catch a ferry. So we had to drive a few hours, catch the ferry, and then after catching the ferry, another hour. Another outside show that was pretty chilly. Really nice spot though, right on the beach. Really cool hotel, good food. Really good food. Yeah, man, I'm just thinking about it now. That was one of the better meals we've had. After Saaremaa, the plan was to head back to the mainland of Estonia and then catch another ferry, a longer one, a smaller one, 3.5 hours to the island of Runu. Really tiny, very difficult to get to, only a couple ferries a week. I think bringing your car on is kind of, they might have like 1 or 2 spots that's really reserved for locals. So car would stay on the mainland. So yeah, the logistics here are a lot more difficult than any of the other ferries we've had to catch. Plan was to take the ferry there on Monday, get settled in, stay Monday night, and then play the show Tuesday, stay Tuesday night, and then take the Wednesday ferry back to the mainland. So waking up in Saaremaa, we had to get on the ferry to the mainland, drive a little bit, and then take the other ferry to Runu, which was scheduled to leave Monday afternoon. But we woke up on Monday to an email from the promoter in Runu saying that the ferry wasn't going to run on Monday because the conditions were too choppy. And yeah, I believe it, because it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds and not really conditions you want to be on a small boat for 3.5 hours. So he said, yeah. It's going to leave Tuesday now instead, because there wasn't going to be one on Tuesday. He's like, yeah, so just catch the Tuesday ferry, 7 a.m., and then you'll get in and play the show. And a few too many, I don't want to say red flags, I'll say flags. A few too many flags there for us. That just wasn't going to work, because, yeah, 7 a.m. ferry, that means waking up at 5, long ferry, like really not have any time to rest. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not getting up at 5 for, there's very few things in the world that I'm waking up at 5 a.m. for. I hate to say it, but one show is not on the list. Also forgot to mention, on Tuesday, the day that the ferry was actually going to run, it was still like 6 to 7 foot seas on a small boat. Yeah. So we didn't make it to Runu, which in the grand scheme of things was okay, because it gave me a chance to do something that I had been waiting for the right moment to do all summer, and that is to propose to Amanda. So yeah, I had been carrying around her engagement ring all summer, waiting for the right moment, just honestly waiting for a moment. And it took a canceled gig and 2 extra free days to do that. And she said yes, obviously. And I have just been riding really high since then, because it's been a long time coming, both in the grand scheme of things of me knowing her for 5.5 years at this point, and this tour. Yeah, I wanted to build some anticipation. I think I did an okay job at that. Not too much. I didn't want to build too much, but it was really nice. We were just having one of those days without a set plan and just driving, exploring. And those are the kind of days that I always think back most fondly on with Amanda. And we were having a really good one. We ended our day. We made one last stop. Got there. I wasn't quite sure if it was going to work out, because it was kind of a popular area, and I really didn't want to do it in front of anyone, really. I wanted it, wherever I did it, I wanted it to be just her and I and no one else. And so we got down there at the end of this really long and narrow peninsula where the Gulf of Riga meets the Baltic Sea. And thankfully, the people cleared out, and we got the peninsula to ourselves for a little bit. And I asked her to marry me, and I'll never forget it. It was perfect ending to a perfect day. Amanda is the most perfect partner that I could ever imagine. And I think the ring just looks absolutely amazing on her. It was one that she picked out, that we both kind of picked out, mainly her. So I really wanted the ring to be perfect, and it really is. It belongs on her hand, and I'm really happy that's where it's at right now. So I think that's a good place to stop for this episode. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to everyone who's reached out and had really, really nice things to say about the engagement. Kind of blown away, honestly. So thank you for all of that. We really do appreciate it. And All Islands coming up next episode. All right. Take care.